Hello and welcome to this special edition of Truth versus Hype. We've seen over the past 2 weeks a huge rash of allegations and evidence which has emerged about the business dealings of Nitin Gadkari and Robert Vadra. And these have certainly raised enough questions, enough doubts about the businesses run by both these individuals. But many are asking today, while these questions remain, what is the exact nature of the wrongdoing? Have they actually broken the law? And if so, what laws? And how serious are those violations? Or are the charges against them merely of conflict of interest? Is there enough grounds to even begin an investigation into the dealings of both Robert Vadra and Nitin Gadkari? So what we're going to do tonight is to try and decode that for you and put all that information and distill all that's emerged to our experts who will try and break it down in terms of specific legalities or illegalities. And while we do that, we'll also try and tackle that other question head on about whether the government is developing or demonstrating blatant double standards when it orders an inquiry into Mr. Gadkari as it has and refuses to do that in the case of Robert Vadra. First, let's start with the case of Mr. Gadkari, who we began to investigate last week. And in the process of that investigation, we came across a large amount of evidence about the nature in which his Purti Group, which is a sugar company that he started in Maharashtra, in Nagpur in 2001, was being financed. Now, it was being financed by a number of what seemed to be shell companies, which don't seem to have a clear identity at all. And now both us and now other media as well have actually gone on the ground and found a number of doubts about those companies. So what we'll do is run you through some of those findings and then turn to our experts to see, do those constitute serious violations of the law? Now, one of the things we found about these companies, which are actually the biggest shareholders of Purti Group, they own about 60 crores of its 68 crores paid up capital, so virtually 60 or 70% of the company, is that they do not exist in their registered addresses. So many of them, if you go to their addresses, company doesn't exist. Their ownership seems to be opaque. It's not clear who owns the company. You try to find out who owns it and you find 6 other companies and those lead you to 6 more and so on. In many cases, the directors of the companies themselves are non-existent. You go to those addresses, they've never heard of those directors. In some cases, it's emerged that the directors are in fact personal staff of Nitin Gadkari, which is surprising given that he's claimed that he's actually borrowing money from these companies because he's cash-strapped. He has himself lent to some of these companies, again surprising given that he is borrowing from them. There are also questions about their financial capacity to make these large investments that they did into the Purti Group, some of them lending as much as 4 or 5 crores, while their own paid-up capital is just a couple of lakhs. And their source of funding is not clear. Because their origin and identity is not clear, their source of funding is not clear. So what does that tell you about these companies, and what does it tell you subsequently? What are the implications for Mr. Gadkari himself? Let's turn straight away to Ranjana Roy, who's a leading corporate lawyer. Thanks very much indeed for joining us.
Hi, thanks.
When one looks at this entire set of companies that have invested in Mr. Gadkari's Purti Group, now the first point about the fact that they've given false addresses. Many of the cases, the directors don't exist. Now, is this a violation of the law? And if so, what are the implications?
There is a specific provisions under the Companies Act, let's say Section 628, which provides for penalty if anyone who gives the wrong information, because this information must have been provided right since time of incorporation, and when the directors have been appointed and the forms etc. have been uploaded on the ROC. If it is found out by ROC, because ROC is fully empowered to look into it.
If they find that it's false, then what's the penalty?
Then, if it is found out to be false, then yes, there is a penalty and also the imprisonment, which may go up to 2 years.
So you could go to 2 years in jail for giving false information or wrong information.
This is what Companies Act provides for.
Okay.
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app. Fully optimized for retina display. Full screen view. Faster response time. And Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.